Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Wednesday morning the 6th of November and we're sticking with the Delphi trial again today. The defence is coming towards the end of their case in chief. It's being speculated that they may rest today. They've rocketed through a whole bunch of witnesses, but because they are not allowed their third-party culpability defence as they originally planned, then there's a lot of witnesses that they don't need to call, so they could well rest today. Then it would be Nick McClelland's rebuttal. Then it would be closing arguments, and then the jury get the case. The jury could have this case well before weekend. We could have a verdict before weekend. But we're here to talk about day 16 of the Delphi trial, and one witness in particular completely stole the show yesterday. So in the morning they had Betsy Blairback, they had a psychiatrist to say that Richard Allen was definitely psychotic. He was in psychosis at the time he made those confessions. I don't think you need to be a psychiatrist to know that. If you're being completely intellectually honest with yourself and you're not just a guilter for the sake of it. And then there was the defence's expert talking about the unspent round. But the person who stole the show was an ex-FBI agent, someone called Stacy Eldridge. And oh boy, if you've been following the Delphi case, you have been living under a rock for the last few hours if you don't know what I'm going to talk about. Headphones, anyone?
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."
Okay, so I'm going to read parts of this from Wish TV. I've got some clips to show you as well from my little experiment that I did this morning. All right, so court is back in session at 1:47 p.m. The state says the next defence witness is a phone expert, and they request the two previous witnesses who examined Libby's phone to be able to sit in the courtroom for rebuttal. And they were allowed, and Chris Cecil was able to do a little bit of Googling. So Eldridge worked for the FBI for nearly 10 years as a forensic examiner and then a senior examiner. But she now works as a licensed private detective in Nebraska. She works as a consultant now in addition to her PI work, and she also teaches. She teaches this stuff. So I think she's very qualified. So she tells the jury that the Indiana State Police use Celebrite, Axiom and other forensic tools to examine Libby's phone. She says she primarily used Axiom and used two others as well. She explained to the jury that every tool can do the work a little differently or display it differently. The problem, I think, for the Indiana State Police is that their experts weren't actually that expert in what they were tasked to do. So Eldridge explained that it was only like the most basic of extractions that was done originally. The full extraction was only done in October of that year, which is a problem because every time you handle that phone, every time you turn it on and turn it off, you're losing data. You're losing data from the power log. So we don't know whether Libby's phone was powered off. If that data extraction had been done fully straight away, we may well know the answer to that. She also says that that log can tell if the phone went into airplane mode. Again, we don't know the answer to that. Now, a lot of people have said, can a phone record steps if it's either turned all the way off or put into airplane mode? If a phone's turned all the way off, no, it can't. Nothing's working on that phone. Nothing. However, the Apple Health app does not require internet, and I'll show you the little experiment that I did this morning. So you can see here that this is 9:37 and I've got 4G. I'm actually outside, and I've walked up to this point 1,916 steps. So that's the Apple Health app on my iPhone 12. So 1,916 steps equates to 0.86 miles. Okay, and then I go here and turn it onto airplane mode. Then I walked around a little bit. So a couple of minutes later, 9:39, I was up to 2,060 steps. And that was 0.92 miles. So I'd walked 0.04 miles and accrued a few more steps in that couple of minutes. And my phone was on airplane mode the whole time. You can see there, airplane mode the whole time. Turn the phone all the way off, and I can't show this because if my phone's turned all the way off, I can't record anything, can I? But I promise you, if a phone is turned all the way off, it is not recording steps. But it doesn't require the internet to record steps. So we don't know whether Libby's phone was put into airplane mode at any point. We don't know if it was turned all the way off at any point. Okay, so then Eldridge goes to explain all the numbers in the report that Chris Cecil didn't understand. So she says she generally agrees with the state's experts' examination of the timeline of Libby's phone, but there are things she doesn't agree with. She says she doesn't agree with some of the times, some of the texts, the calls and the FaceTimes that were delivered between February 13th and 14th. She tells the jury there were times on the 13th and 14th that the phone was not connected to a cell tower. She says the last time it connected on the 13th was 5:45 p.m. and then it reconnects at 4:33 a.m. So we knew all of that. We've known that from Chris Cecil. We've known that since the pre-trial hearing when all of this came out. So if that phone had been under Abby's body at the crime scene the whole time, it went, 11 hours without being connected to a cell tower. Why? Why did it suddenly just magically reconnect to a cell tower at 4:33 a.m? Now, the state would say, oh, well, it just, I don't know, just got a little bit of a boost or something, and it just happened. The defence say, well, perhaps it wasn't even in the area for, a considerable amount of time. And we don't know the answer, and we may never know the answer. I don't think we'll ever know the answer. She tells the jury she reviewed cell phone pings from AT&T. She shows AT&T's historical precision location logs. The state objects, saying that she doesn't have training on the network in Carroll County. Why? Carroll County so very different than anywhere else? They say the log isn't complete and Eldridge is not qualified. Defence attorney Jennifer Auger says the page admitted into evidence is the one pertinent to the investigation, but there are several hundred more. Gull admits the exhibit over the state's objection. Wow. Okay. Cecil's reports say there were messages coming through during that time frame. She says there is evidence that the phone did not have messages delivered between those times. So she's saying Cecil's wrong. There was no input, nothing, between 5:45 and 4:33. And at 4:33 a.m, all those messages came back through. To me, it was turned on. Can't prove it, though. Nobody can prove it. Nobody can prove it. Now, here's the big reveal. Eldridge is asked about the phone's health data. She says she agrees with Cecil about the data on the steps. She says iPhones will not log steps if you're in a car or if the phone is powered off. If you're moving, if the phone's moving, but you're in a car, unless it's really bumpy and, you know, you're being jolted up and down, you know, like our bone shaker trains used to be, that will record steps because the phone thinks it's walking. If you're, you know, moving smoothly on a road, it's not going to record any steps. And if the phone's turned off, it's not going to record anything at all. Eldridge says she now knows that at 5:45 to 10:32 p.m. that night, the phone had wired headphones plugged in. She demonstrates headphones being plugged in to an iPhone 6s. I've got an iPhone 6. Here it is. That's the headphone port. There it is. I think the iPhone 6 is my favourite iPhone. I really do. I always like the shape of it. It's very thin. You could just like tuck it in your pocket. The newer iPhones don't have this. They got rid of that. So you either plug headphones in here or you use wireless ones. But yeah, I've had a look around my house and I couldn't find any headphones to fit in there. I do have some, I just don't know where they are. That little hole there has created an absolute furore. So headphones were plugged in. She says it could have been an auxiliary cord for a car that was plugged into the phone. And she can't think of any explanation that does not involve humans. And then she says right before the headphones were plugged in, there was an incoming call. And then the headphones being plugged in, stop the call. Were headphones plugged in to silence the call? If so, why wouldn't you just turn the phone off? So between 5:45 and 10:32, that phone was on and there was headphones plugged in. So between 10:32 p.m. and 4:33 a.m. the following day, there was no headphones plugged in and it wasn't connected to data in any way. But she also said that the phone was in and out of service even before 5:45. And she says it could be an explanation that Libby's phone was just hopping in and out of service, and for some reason, for a whole 11 hours, it didn't have service. And then at 4:33, it just like popped back up. On cross-examination, McClelland asked her if the phone would have had to have been moved to plug in headphones. He asked if it could have been registered in the health data. Eldridge says it could be the case, but she did not test that. Well, I'm telling you, just plugging headphones in would not register with the health app. Like just using your phone normally, picking it up, making a call, texting, playing on your phone, that's not going to register steps or distance in the health app. The only way you can get it to register steps in the health app artificially is if you shake the phone. If you shake the phone up and down, it will register steps because it's that up and down movement. But just the normal movement of your phone, plugging headphones in, making a call, that would not register anything in the health app. Instead of the phone just going in and out of service of its own accord, there could have been a signal blocker, like a metal in a building, putting the phone in a Faraday bag would block your data. But why wouldn't you just turn the phone off? I don't understand why you just wouldn't turn the phone off. On redirect, Eldridge says she reviewed the most important information in the number of hours she had. Auger asked her if the FBI ever did a drive study, which includes driving around to see what signal you get in what places. Auger asked if the FBI knew how to do this in 2017, and she said, yeah, theoretically, of course they did. But no, apparently that wasn't done. So there's so much not been done in this investigation that I think we would have had the answers to some of these, most of these probably. We'd certainly have known if somebody had put the phone into airplane mode or turned it off. We would have known. But that data has been lost due to ineptitude. But again, if it was turned all the way off, it wouldn't record anything. So the fact that it's recording headphones being plugged in between 5:45 and 10:32 means that phone was on. Might have been in airplane mode, but it was on. So then were the headphones taken out and it was kept on airplane mode? But if it was moved, like properly moved, it would have registered steps. Jury questions were interesting. Did you ever write your own timeline? She says no. Could any of this be related to Libby's iPad? She said no. If you got your devices synced up, then yeah, there could be data coming into the phone from the iPad, but apparently they weren't synced. Now, this is the big deal. Would water impact movement? Eldridge says no, water would not impact the port. I don't think it would influence movement, but water in the headphone port could register as headphones being plugged in, which is bad for the defence. Could it just be going through the creek, a little bit of water, got into the headphone port, a little bit of water, a little drop of water got in there. I don't know why it wouldn't register the headphones from like 2:30 to 5:45. I don't know why that would be, but I do know that this very phone, you can see it's quite battered because I just don't look after stuff, but this very phone had a problem one day. It was just pretending that there was headphones in. It was just telling me there was headphones in. It was just like behaving really weirdly. So I Googled it, and it said you could have dirt in your port. So I got a needle and I poked around and there was a little bit of fluff in there. Pulled a little bit of fluff out and hey presto, the phone was fine. Never tried it with water, not going to try it with water, but I would imagine that, it trips the sensor and it believes there's headphones plugged in. So absolutely, that could be the case, just a little drop of water. But why did it just suddenly register headphones at 5:45 when, according to the state's timeline, they'd have gone through the creek at 2:30? And then what happened to that water? Did it just like drip out at 10:32? So we do not know the answer to this. So anyway, Chris Cecil was brought back and Jennifer Auger asked him what an audio output start means. He says he doesn't know. Cecil just doesn't know very much. He says he doesn't have the education to know why a cell phone would or wouldn't connect to a tower. So Nick McClelland was saying Eldridge didn't have the expertise or whatever, and then his own expert doesn't know very much about phones at all. Auger said, do you normally Google search when conducting research in a criminal investigation? It says not normally, no, but in this case, in the break, he just had to Google it. Auger says, you normally look at peer-reviewed articles, right? Yeah, that's correct. And Auger then says, you and the state have had 7.5 years to research this. That's correct, Cecil responds. Were there headphones plugged in to Libby's phone? Let's look at this timeline one more time. So the 700 metres is accurate. This 414 metres, even if you take into account that, the phone might be registering some inaccurate steps or something. Why was it accurate here, but not accurate here? And then this 50 metres and 68 steps is bizarre. And then the phone climbs 20 feet. This doesn't make sense. Eldridge said that the timeline, the steps, the distance have been extracted fine. Make it all make sense, guys, because it doesn't, does it? Think of a theory where all of these bombshells that keep coming out could feasibly have happened. Even Occam's razor doesn't help us here. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.